We'll take a look at order operations, and the order of operations are as follows. And you may have heard of this saying, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, and this is a mnemonic device, and we look at the first letters of each word, PEMDAS. And what it actually stands for, the order in which you're going to perform the given operations. The P stands for parentheses. So the first thing you'll do is you'll simplify what's in the innermost parentheses, absolute value or radical. E is for exponents. So next you'll simplify what's in the exponents. The M and D, they go together. M and D are multiplication and division. With this stipulation, whichever comes first from left to right. And then the A and D are together, which stands for addition and subtraction. And again, it's whichever comes first from left to right. So you're going to always multiply and divide before you add and subtract. So let's take a look at an example. So in this example, we have 3/4 plus 2 cubed minus 4/5 divided by 2 and 2/3. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to evaluate the exponent. Okay, I don't have any innermost parentheses. So this is equal to 3/4 plus 2 to the third power. So 2 to the third power is 2 times itself 3 times, which is 8, minus 4/5 divided by 2 and 2/3. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to convert everything to a fraction, whether it be an improper fraction or a proper fraction. So 3/4 is already in fractional form. I'm going to convert 8 to a fraction, right, by simply putting that over 1, minus 4/5 divided by, I'm going to convert the mixed number into an improper fraction. So for 2 and 2/3, I'm going to multiply these two, and I'm going to add the numerator. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. And I'm going to put that back over the denominator. So 2 and 2/3 as an improper fraction is 8/3. So if we go back to our order of operations, the next thing I want to do is divide. So I'm going to bring down my 3/4, and I'm going to bring down my 8/1 and my minus. Now you can't divide fractions, but you can multiply by the reciprocal. Right? So I can't divide fractions. I can multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm only reciprocating, and reciprocating means to flip that fraction over. Okay, I'm reciprocating 8/3, and this is where I get the 3/8. Now I can multiply two fractions. All right, so I'm going to bring down the 3/4. I'm going to bring down 8. When I multiply fractions, I'm simply going to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 8 is 40. Now, in order to add or subtract fractions, you must have a common denominator. So I have three denominators, 4, 1, and 40. And I have to find the least common denominator or the least common multiple. So here I'm going to use the least common multiple. Okay, the least common denominator and the least common multiple are exactly the same. So I'm going to take the multiples of 4, right? Because 4 is our first denominator. So what are multiples? Well, multiples are, if I take 4 times 1, I get 4. 4 times 2 is 10. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. And that's going to keep on going. Now, since I have 1 in the denominator, I'm not going to find the least common multiples for 1. So that would simply just be 1 through infinity. Next, I'm going to take 40. And I'm going to write out the multiples of 40. So the multiples of 40 are 40. 40 times 1 is 40. 40 times 2 is 80. 40 times 3 is 120. And that's going to keep on going. So notice for my multiples of 4, the first number I'm actually going to hit that are going to be multiples are 40. So my least common denominator or least common multiple should be 40. So I'm going to make equivalent fractions. So I'm going to write each one of these fractions as having a denominator of 40. So in order to make equivalent fractions, whatever we do to the bottom, we must do the exact same thing to the top. So if I look at 3/4, I had to multiply this 4 times 10 to get 40. I must also multiply the top by 10. Right, 3 times 10 is 30. If I look at my second fraction, I had to multiply 1 times 40 to get the least common denominator 40. I must also multiply the numerator times 40. 8 times 40 is 320. And lastly, my denominator for 12 over 40 is 40. So we multiply the denominator by 1. And we multiply the top by 1. And that fraction stays the same. Now, since we have a common denominator, we're going to keep that common denominator and we're going to combine our numerators. Right? So 30 plus 320 minus 12, that's going to give us 338 divided by 40. And now I want to reduce. Since I have two even numbers, right? My numerator is even, 338. Anything that's even ends in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. My denominator, 40, is also even. So in order to reduce, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut both of those numbers in half. So 338 divided by 2 is 169. 40 divided by 2 is 20. And if I look at 169 and 20, I can reduce no further. So my final answer is 169 over